Hello War of the Visions, I'm Chris. In this video I want to talk to you about Final Fantasy IV. You know, that one game where a guy bleaches his hair white, puts on more colorful clothing, and goes to the moon like he's in an Elton John music video. But more specifically, let's talk about Final Fantasy IV in War of the Visions, because all of your favorites and this guy have been sounding off about Gumi's handling of the Final Fantasy IV collab in Global. It seems like everyone is super disappointed we didn't get any good banners, there's no free Cecil, and there aren't really any good paid packs in the store either. But I'm here to tell you, no, that's basically right. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. But I did want to respond to a few of the good points brought up by my fellow influencers on YouTube and this guy, because I think there are some important conversations to have about why this happened and what it means for the future of the game. Let's go ahead and dig. I can't say that. I can't say that. Who put that on the teleprompter? Who put that on there? All right, guys, the first thing I want to talk about here is the banners we get for War of the Visions for Final Fantasy IV. And RNJ really was the first one in his video who was like, he is going through these in real time, and he's like, these banners, they kind of suck here, right? They do suck. You have basically all four characters, separate banners. I mean, you can get them on each other's banners, but they're each only feature on their only one banners, and obviously no free Cecil, which we're gonna talk about here in a little bit. But yeah, it's the 42,000 pity banners, and the step up doesn't even count towards it. And the coins they don't have a pity for coins in the Mog Shop too, which is, it's not even like a dual pity system like the Elena banner or anything like that. So obviously it sucks, you know, and hopefully this won't be the standard going forward, but I think we should probably fully expect this to be the standard going forward. And this is why one of the things that I always recommend is, if there's a character that you're targeting in the future, definitely make sure that you have 40,000 Vizor saved up for it. So especially for a lot of the people that follow this channel that are free to play or light spenders, you have to really plan on the units that you're going for in order to have that Vizor saved up. Obviously, if you're a spender, you're gonna have to spend more to get them. But you know, I have a bunch of friends that play this game as well, and I actually got a couple texts this morning. One of them, my friends, he goes, am I stupid, but where do I pity Golbez if I'm summoning for him? I said, you can't. He's not in the shop. There's no pity here. It's basically you have to fill up this bar like the Elena banner. He's like, well, that sucks. I'm like, yeah, it kind of sucks. There's no dual pity here. I also had another friend who I got to start this summer. He texts me and he goes, hey, where's Cecil? Like, how do I redeem Cecil? Do I have to complete the events? Do I need to claim him on my presence box? And I'm like, no, there's no Cecil. And that's the second point I want to bring up here, is that Mysidia talked a lot about there not being a free Cecil. So I'll link his video in the description below so that you guys can go and watch that. But one interesting point that he brought up is, what is the future of these free units on the reruns of these banners? Because obviously when they rerun these banners, that they're going to bring EXs to original units, and they're also going to bring in new units. But what is the future of these free units? Does this mean you have to be in on the first run of these events? Like, is 9S going to be free when Nier Automata comes back? Is Titus going to be free when Final Fantasy X comes back? Like, that's seriously in doubt now, and I really would hope that with the backlash they're getting from this Final Fantasy IV event, that they would still be free. But I just, for me personally, I can't wrap my head around why they wouldn't give you Cecil, give everybody Cecil. Like, for new players who came in since like the 1 year anniversary, Final Fantasy X, it brought in a lot of new players. Final Fantasy VII probably brought in a lot of players who are playing now. And let me know in the comment section below if you're one of these people. But for all of these people, why are you not giving them a free Cecil too? Like, that kind of seems exclusivist to me, to people who were around the first time around. And actually, I've said this a couple of times in some of my videos, but I would really like to see a system for these Final Fantasy collabs where instead of giving us a free unit, you instead give a select ticket, or even if you just have a banner that's like a 2,000 banner or something that guarantees you one of the units. That would be great, because 90 80% of people playing War of the Visions are playing it for these collabs. They're not playing it for the War of the Visions units, right? Most of us are playing this game for these collabs, for our classic characters that we like, and be able to see them in a different setting and use them in a tactics style setting. I would love to see a system where they gave a select ticket, like for Final Fantasy VI. There's no free lock. We don't get a free lock, but you do get a select ticket, so you can choose one of Locke, Terra, or Celeste. And I think, honestly, a system like this would actually encourage people to spend more. One, because they can get the character that they want, and two, because we're headed into a part of War of the Visions where we're not going to see as many story characters coming out, or these non-limited characters coming out. We're going to be getting more collabs, like back to back to back to back, and reruns of these collabs. So people wanting to build a lot of these collab characters, you're still going to have to spend to do it, but you're going to have the characters that you want, and you're going to have collab characters. Anyway, that's kind of my thoughts anyway. I feel like I would spend more on the game if I got to choose a character from each collab and realize, oh, I don't have enough Visual. Like, even if we didn't get enough free shards, I would still spend in order to build these characters because they're on my roster, right? So I've said this for a long time. I really do think they should give a select ticket at the beginning of each of these collabs that lets you choose one of the characters. And if you want more than one, then you do have to brave that gacha system, but it lets you choose characters you want. Anyway, the whole system sucks. I think it needs a revamp. I think if not offering these free units on reruns of these events would be a really, really bad idea. I hope this Cecil thing is just a one-off because JP didn't get him. So hopefully maybe when they rerun these other collabs where both JP and Global got him for free, maybe we see all these units come back for free. So that might be our discrepancy. But there's always a chance, it's Gumi, that we don't get these free units on the second rerun, like Titus, 9S, and Tifa. Who knows? That's seriously in doubt now. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about here is from Dr. Dig's video, and he brings up a really, really interesting question about whether this is intentional or unintentional from Gumi to have like these bad banners and no Cecil. Like, are they just squeezing our pocketbooks, or is this just a miscommunication between like the production team and the actual deliverables, the person like who puts together the banners? I do think that's an important question, but I think that it's probably a little bit of both. And the one thing that Dr. Diggs, I think, does nail on the head is that it's a mismanagement at Gumi. There's 100% this is mismanagement, the way that they've handled this Final Fantasy IV event. And I do think that there's a little bit of intentional and unintentional. So clearly there's a miscommunication between the player base and what they're willing to pay for or accept and what we're actually seeing in game. There's definitely that. So inside of Gumi, maybe they just don't have a good grasp of the player base and what people want or would be upset about. That could be a thing. But I do think there is a level of intentional, and I think Diggs kind of danced around this because he didn't want to be too controversial as he has been in the past, but 100% there is a level of intention behind these banners and behind this system. One of the things that, if you guys work in corporate structure, I have in the past, especially in sales, a lot of you will understand what I'm going to get at here in a second, is that there's always a miscommunication between like the corporate level or the management level and then the people who are actually doing the deliverables. So like in sales, you might have a corporation wants to make a deal with another company. So they're saying, okay, we need to push a certain sale of this product in order to get this, like, our numbers to look good so we can get this deal done at the corporate level. So that gets trickled down to managers who say, hey, push your salespeople to sell this. And the managers, like, they get incentives and then they push that to the salespeople. And the salespeople end up selling stuff they don't really know why they're selling it. And when customers ask them, they still have to give them, they still have to sling it. So those of you who are in sales, you know what I'm talking about here. I think there's a huge level of this happening in gaming, especially in gacha games. When they look at revenue, that's measurable. They can look at, we did this, X amount of revenue came in, or our revenue didn't change and we were able to do this, or our revenue increased. Those are measurables. Those are things that people like managers and corporate corporate level folks really like. The thing you can't measure, and I think this is where the disconnect is here with the Final Fantasy IV event, is that user experience is not measurable. You can't measure like player happiness against the amount of money brought in, which means because you can't measure that, the suits, they're not going to use that as a measurable. So the only way to make this a measurable is if people just absolutely don't spend. But I think people who are like whales, they're gonna spend anyway, probably, right? No matter how this affects the user experience, because it doesn't affect them and their habits. So if that doesn't change, I think maybe we will continue to see stuff like this, like crappy banners, and all it's going to do is continue to create a divide between those who just continue to pay for what they want, and then bringing in both new players and players that just kind of play the game casually. And that's probably my biggest gripe with this, is that with the channel, I've tried to cater to a lot of people who want to play the game casually. We all have real lives. We all want to play the game casually, but it also makes it a whole lot less fun when you see stuff like this with the Final Fantasy IV collab. So I do think there's a disconnect between the perception of value of things that are in the game and then the reality of that value for a lot of the players. So I think that not having that as the measurable, you see this with a lot with gaming companies. Like Halo Infinite just came out. I don't know how much you guys actually follow this, but I've been following like the news of the game, and Halo Infinite is a game that's been absolutely blasted since its launch, because it's been hyper predatory with its monetization. You can see all this effort put into like the shop and all these tiny like emblems and stuff they're trying to sell for $20 because they're trying to follow that like free to play monetization model, and people have called them out on it. And you see a lot of like the under people at 343, which is the company that makes Halo now, who are like kind of putting out these little messages like, we're working on like, this is not what we wanted, like, but the corporate level at Microsoft is probably telling them like, we need to be aggressive with the monetization, and it's affecting the user experience, and that sucks for the people who are passionate about the game. So I would imagine there are people at Gumi, hopefully Hiroki is one of these people, that feel passionate about War of the Visions, and they don't like seeing this kind of feedback from these events, and they don't like having to implement these things from that top level. Maybe that's part of that mismanagement level that Diggs talks about so much. Anyway, a lot to talk about in this video. Hopefully you guys have some comments. Let me know in the comments section below. Basically any of your thoughts on whether stuff we talked about in this video or any of the other videos from the other people. Enjoy your Final Fantasy IV collab, as much as you can, and we'll catch you in the next one.